Hello and good evening everybody to tonight's ONS meeting. I'll start with apologies for absence, please.
Yes, we've had apologies from Councillor Andrew Dyke.
Thank you. Any other apologies? No. Declarations of interest? No. Can I... so I'll move the minutes of the previous meeting. Do I have a seconder? Mark. And is everyone happy to approve those? That's unanimous. Thank you. Do we have any questions from members of the public?
No questions, Chair.
Perfect. Okay, so we're moving very swiftly on to our presentation tonight from Platform Housing. Thank you all very much for coming. I think we have a slideshow. I know some questions have been given to you already, of which you've responded, and then the committee may have questions following the presentation. But if you wouldn't mind, when you speak, just introducing who you are and what you do at Platform, that would be fantastic. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation to attend this evening. We're very happy to be here. I'm Lisa Fairley. I'm Director of Housing Operations at Platform, and I think it probably would be worthwhile just to do the introductions now, if that's okay.
Thank you for the invite today. My name is Stephen Eves. I'm the Director of Strategic Assets and Regeneration at Platform. Thank you.
Thank you again. My name is Mark Mail. I'm Operations Director for our in-house delivery team for responsive repairs and maintenance.
And I'm Claire Greensaw, Head of Localities here in Severn, in this area.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll start the presentation. So the first slide is just a recap for those of you that remember when we came to present to you a couple of years ago now. We've got our corporate strategy. We're in the process of refreshing and designing our new corporate strategy. But our strategic goals are linked there. I'm not going to go through that in a lot of detail, but they're focused around people, places and Platform as an organisation itself. And we have our purpose, vision and mission. Next slide, please. This slide is in relation to our contact centre, which we brand as Platform Hub. So they are responsible for all customer contact into Platform, and we interact with our customers to assist with repairs reporting, housing management advice and any other general enquiries that they may contact us about. So the contact centre has a variety of different ways in which customers can engage with us, and we're always working to try and strengthen that. So, for example, we've got in-person calls that people can contact us with, but we also have a digital way of engaging with us, which many of our customers choose and prefer. We've got web chat, we've got a customer portal, we have social media that we are active on, emails, and we've also got web chat and we've got website inquiries. So there are a range of different opportunities for people to contact us and talk about any concerns that they've got. And then the other information on here is really just giving you some information about process times, the average call wait time, which I'm really proud to say that our call wait time has hugely increased. And in terms of the service, it's shrunk, but the call wait times now are very low. And we're not getting feedback in the way that we were when perhaps we last came. And you can see that on the information there. Call wait times, callback times. You know, we're doing hardly any callbacks to customers because all customers that do contact us by phone are getting what they need from us straight away with very limited wait times. So really positive outcome for customers, and we're getting very positive feedback from our customers around that. Next slide, please.
Sorry, can I just to go back to that previous slide? So just to understand that data, is that simply for calls, or is that for all means of communication through web chat, customer portal, social media, if people are asking you inquiries over those means?
These are the calls that we've received, and there's the callbacks there as well. So these are the calls where people have decided that they would like to not wait and wait for a callback, and then there's the service level and how we've achieved the service level. So yes, it's about the call process time.
And so do you have the same data for web chat?
We would have the same data for our emails and for our web chat, and we can provide that to you if you would like to see that.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take that as an action. Thank you very much.
Sorry, can I just ask, what's SLA?
It's a service level agreement. So we have a KPI, a key performance indicator, where we're expecting to manage within a certain time frame, and we measure it and see whether or not we're hitting those service level agreements, and that's something that we scrutinise very rigorously because we want to make sure we're delivering a really good service to our customers and meeting those expectations. So you can see there that we've got last year for the period March 23 to 24, 70.35, and now in the current quarter for this financial year, a 96.47. So that gives us a huge amount of assurance that we're operating within the standards that we're setting and what our customers expect. We are very engaged with our customers. Our customers are talking to us all the time about the service, and we do capture that information. We are very actively engaging our customers through a wide range of means, which I'll come on to.
I think I've broken protocol by asking that question, so apologies.
Okay.
But let's save questions for the end, and then no. I'm sure we can come back to the slides as and when. I don't want to break you, so it's my fault. I've broken protocol.
If it works for you, then please
We'll
ask.
do it at the end unless there's something really bad.
Okay, so we have a platform wellbeing fund. I think most people will be aware of that. It's something that we created during the COVID pandemic. We had large sums of money awarded to our customers. We have at the moment a wellbeing fund that's well over £1 million. It's been up to £2 million per year at certain times because of the cost of living, the hikes in the electric. So we do monitor that every year, and our board are very committed to our wellbeing fund. So the average value of awards, you can see of what we're giving, and this is in the district of Wychavon to Wychavon platform customers, and the average award is linked there. And you can see that there's some essential spend category, so that's food, household goods and energy support. You can see support category for white goods, that's washing machines and etc., cookers, furniture and beds. And then we've got combined awards where we do allocate some essential and support category awards to customers, and you can see the number of awards there that we've made. And that is very much through referrals from our neighbourhood teams, through customers contacting us directly, through stakeholders as well that we work with that are working very closely with our customers, that may come in and make a referral to us. Next slide. Sitting alongside our wellbeing fund are our successful tenancies team. The team are there to support customers by maximising their income and promoting tenancy sustainability. We want people to be able to really thrive in our homes and feel that they can live well. All platform customers are able to self-refer, and they can be referred into a specialist team of advisors who can support with all sorts of financial matters. And you know, they're very good at looking at what people are claiming in terms of benefits and maximising those benefit opportunities, doing income and expenditure, budgeting, and they'll do those welfare benefit reviews. So they'll support with any appeals if an application's been refused. They'll look at grants, they'll look at other funds and schemes. So for example, they may support with access to a water authority fund for support. So you can see there the number of customer referrals and the financial outcomes achieved for customers living in the district, which is, you know, not an insignificant number, and certainly the financial outcomes are very high. We also look at social value, because all of this adds social value to those communities in which those customers live, and there's a ripple effect, I suppose, for those customers. If they've got more money in their pocket, then they're going to be able to sustain the wider community services too. Thank you. Next slide, please. So at Platform, we put a lot of emphasis on community engagement and investment. We have a specialist team, which are part of my portfolio, and we work really hard to make sure that we engage with our communities on things that matter to them. And we are very focused on living well, how we can do extra more to support our customers. And this slide gives you an indication of what that looks like. So we have a community chest. It's managed by involved customers. They make the awards, they assess the awards. You can see that there's been an award to 14 recipients and £12,500 approximately. And just an identification of some of the broad range of projects that we've supported: bereavement support, seated yoga, walking football, and a wellbeing reading pod. And we've already, for this year, awarded that amount of money again. So there's been quite a lot of investment. We also, at Christmas and around Christmas, do Christmas and community kindness. So people apply for funding, and we awarded 6,500 to 3 recipients in the district. So there was Christmas activities and parties for children and older people. There was some financial support for a youth group so that they could carry on operating over winter when there's high costs of heating. And we've already awarded 5,734 for this financial year. We have dedicated community engagement officers, and we have a dedicated officer for this area. So community activities are led by that person. Chris Coley, you may know him. We have Community Heroes Awards. So this is where we recognise those customers who are doing an awful lot for their community, and their community really benefit from that volunteering that they do. We recognise that through an annual Community Hero Awards, where people do receive an award for the work that they do, and some real recognition across platform for the fact that they are doing really good things in those communities. We've also had a roadshow which we class as a community conversation, where we're going out directly into our localities and communities to talk with customers, taking a number of colleagues with us so that they don't have to travel to us or they don't have to ring us. We can actually spend that time with them, and we'll continue to do that because they're very successful and well attended. We've done a number of fun days, so over 350 people came to Westlands for the fun days. We've done work with Loan Shark events with the illegal money lending team. We do things called Community Connected, and that's where platform colleagues come out into communities, often as teams, to do work in those communities. So they might do community clean-ups, they might do some decorating work, they might go and volunteer at a local food bank, and a whole range of other activities. But this is a commitment that Platform expects of its colleagues to go out and give back to those communities in which we serve. So the final slide a little bit just gives you a breakdown of the different involved customers that we've got. One point I would like to highlight is we've got a digital champion. Our customer digital champions do amazing work. They are there to support other people who they live alongside to become more digitally enabled and connected, because that's the world in which we live in these days. And people can have a really enhanced quality of life if they are able to reconnect with lost friends that they don't know about through Facebook, or they can make connections in other ways, and also they can research things that they might be interested in. They can join community-based groups, and it just enhances quality of life for our customers who choose to engage with them, becoming more digitally enabled. Next slide, please. Neighbourhood walkabouts, I know a number of councillors attend those. I've done that myself. I met with some councillors in Pershore and in Evesham, where we've done those walkabouts. So this just gives you a flavour of the walkabouts that we do. Very much engaged with the police, very much engaged with other community stakeholders, led by the neighbourhood officers in my team. It says in addition there's been an extra walkabout that was done with Councillor Morris and Jane and Barry Barnes, where we did do a walkabout, particularly in the areas where Councillor Morris had got some concerns, which hopefully we gave him some assurance and gave him a position of where we are on those points. An action plan was developed, and we're all working through those items to make sure that there's transparency for those customers and the councillor and other stakeholders as well. So we are committed to attending regular residents' meetings in Droitwich and in Chawson as well. Next slide, please. So complaints, this is a busy slide, but what it does do is tell you about the number of complaints that we've had from the 1st of April to the 31st of December, so 3 quarters effectively. We've had 147. You can see the range and the depth of the complaints and how closely we do monitor that, the types of complaints that we receive. And, whilst we absolutely encourage complaints, because through complaints we learn, and we are very focused on understanding the trend analysis and what we need to put right. So that slide hopefully will give you some assurance that we are taking complaint management and the detail and the data and insight around complaint management really seriously. Next slide, please. The customer satisfaction, this is a transactional survey output, is 77.8%. And that gives you a little bit of data around that. That is for those customers who've received a service from us, we contact them and we receive their feedback around that service. And that's actually above our expectations, and it's actually quite a bit higher than the average within the sector. So it's green because it's meeting what our KPI is in terms of that. But we don't rest on our laurels, and we are absolutely focused on making sure that we have that ambition to achieve a higher level of customer satisfaction. Next slide, please. I'm going to pass over to Steve now, who's going to pick up the next couple of slides. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. These are just a few slides just to reaffirm our commitment to providing new affordable homes, high-quality homes. As you can see, homes that were completed last year, 33 new homes provided. And some of those homes we worked in partnership with the council on providing homes for Ukrainians and Afghans as well. And there's a good range of properties here. We tend to build our homes greener, more energy efficient. So some of those homes were nil gas homes, and all our new homes in the pipeline in coming years will be nil gas homes as well, with renewable fuels, renewable energy. In terms of completion so far this year, we have completed 10 new homes, and you can see in some of the pictures here. Sorry, next slide, please, Mark. Yeah, you can see some of the slides there. Modern methods of construction, very green, very energy efficient, and essentially, that's all the good practice that housing associations are really expected to deliver. Next slide, please, Mark. We don't stop there. We have a pipeline. It grows. It continues. Platform is committed to providing more affordable homes. We have a good reputation with the regulator, and you can see here some of these homes have started on site. Some of them are in feasibility, and some of them are awaiting planning approval. But nevertheless, it's just to give you a bit of a flavour of our commitment to providing new, high-quality, affordable homes. Next slide. Regeneration projects. Yep. You can see from the slides here, this is the Willow Court farmhouse on the Westlands estate. Particularly challenging project. And really, thanks to the support from the council, support from Worcestershire Building Preservation Trust, and really quite a remarkable project, and you're not going to see this done very often, but it will provide 6 brand new, high quality, affordable homes. It will be renewable heating, nil gas, and that's remarkable for a 16th century former farmhouse. Very complex project, taken a number of years to get to this point, and I have to say, it couldn't have been done without the support of the council and some of the other key partners. It needed that commitment in order to kind of get that moving forwards. Next slide, please, Mark. It doesn't just stop there, though. Platform has got over 3,000 garages. Approximately speaking, a third of those garages are empty, and we do have ongoing, continuing problems with them. We are spending a 12-month period to visit every garage site, options appraise every garage site, and to come up with a self-sustaining business plan for those garage sites. Some of the garage sites will be no use to anybody, nobody wants to use them, and they'll be repurposed for something else. Some of them will be reinvested in, and some of them will be disposed of. Some will have maybe new homes built on them. So there'll be a whole range of uses that come out of those at the moment. But it's going to be about a 12-month period before we've got a business plan that we're going to take forward for those garage sites. I guess I've talked a little bit about investment in those kind of new homes and those kind of key garage sites there. But I also just want to talk a little bit about existing homes as well, because what you haven't got is a slide on the amount of money and the amount of works we're doing to our existing homes. And really that's kind of really, really important, particularly to your constituents. So I just want to give you some high level numbers. So in the past 9 months, we've spent £2.3 million on what we called planned maintenance for our homes here. So for our customers, in the past 9 months, they've had 82 new kitchens installed, 61 new bathrooms installed, 113 new heating systems installed, and some of those will be air source heat pumps, renewable heating systems. 13 properties have been rewired, 87 properties have had new doors installed, new front and back doors. 32 blocks of apartments have had their communal doors replaced. There's been one door entry system replaced in a communal block of apartments. 19 properties have had their windows replaced. 40 properties have had brand new roofs put on. and 2 properties have had photovoltaic panel systems put on. So this is in the past 9 months, and this is a increasing trend. We are investing year on year, we are investing more money into our homes, and I suspect that is going to, we're doing a big review of our asset management strategy as we speak, and I think that investment is going to increase in years to come as well. There are some big strategic government policy headlines coming. Decent Homes 2. There's been all sorts of investment taking place to make sure we meet our targets for EPCC. That's basically an energy performance standard to make sure properties reach a C standard by 2030. And we're also heavily invested in renewable technologies as well, providing sustainable energy for our properties. And we've just bid, overall, platforms just bid for 1,976 retrofits as part of the government's what's called the Wave 3 funding. And we're just currently in the process of retrofitting 995 homes across all of our stock as part of what's called the Wave 2 system. So I just want to give you, that was just kind of a headline numbers to reassure you that platform is heavily committed to investing in not just new homes, but its existing homes at the same time. I think that's me. So.
That's it. Yeah, and I just wanted to just finish up with them. Apologies, there's no slides in relation to responsive repairs, but just to give you a bit of a slice on the back of what Steve was talking about, that investment in current stock. We spend a huge amount of money on responsive repairs and delivering it. Our satisfaction rate on responsive repairs is 88%. So slightly below where our target is, we set our targets high because we want to deliver the best possible service to customers. So our target is 90%. So we are hovering just below where our target needs to be. Invariably, the main issues that we're seeing is volume of responsive repairs coming through. We're seeing a huge increase in that as an organisation. And so on average, in the Wychavon area, it takes about 34 days to get a responsive repair completed. And just to be clear on that, that doesn't include emergencies. All our emergency repairs are delivered within 6 hours. So invariably as on average. So we have a huge team focused on the Wychavon area to deliver that area, and we also deliver void services as well to turn those existing properties from the previous customer through to a new let, to move a new customer in there and a high lettable standard to ensure that the property we're moving people into is at the highest possible standard we can deliver. And that was just really it.
Sorry, apologies. The final slide is some key contacts so that you can contact people if you need to speak with us, although I do know that there is lots of conversations happening already with neighbourhood officers and lots of regular contact into Claire and to Chris already. So thank you for listening to our presentation. I'm sure you've probably got some questions which we're very happy to field.
Thank you very much. Could I just ask you just to thank you. So before we go into any other questions, let's just deal with the questions that were submitted first and those replies. So we had, I think, in total 4 questions submitted to you to send your replies. Is anyone in the room now that had a response unsatisfied or would like to further quiz the response? Okay, Councillor. Just refer to which question you're asking and the response.
Yes.
And that would be.
So if you had this list as I have it, mine was question 1. I asked about formal complaints and you sent me a response. You did have a slide about formal complaints, but it was a lot of the detail was very small, so I couldn't see. You said that you were working hard to identify themes and trends, although you also referred to the complaints numbers going up since the mould incident. So you seem to have started to have some information about what those trends are. Is it all to do with mould or is it other things as well?
Okay, it's a variety of different things and we're more than happy to go through that with you in more detail. I think generally what we're finding is that we're struggling at times with resources. we're getting more complaints because people are able to make complaints much more easily, and they are heavily promoted by the Housing Ombudsman. You know, you can see that on social media. Sometimes it pops up on my own social media to say, you know, you can make a complaint. What we're finding out of the themes is that many of the complaints that do come in are about repairs and maintenance, and we particularly do struggle with complaints about contractors, because Platform, and Mark's here today, Platform does have an in-house repair service, but we don't have all of the repair service in-house. So there are various things that are very specialist that we have to subcontract out. And one of the things that we're all grappling with, and I'm sure you're grappling with it yourselves because I've grappled with it myself as a homeowner, is trying to get really good trades to come and do a decent job. You know, we're no different as an organisation. We've got a skills shortage in this country, and we've also got an ageing populace of skilled people, and everybody's clambering for those skilled people. And, you know, that can be a challenge for us. So they're one of the big themes that we've had around complaints. But yes, we do get complaints on other things. Sometimes people are dissatisfied, and we find that there is no service failure. And we've followed our policy. It's just that people aren't happy with that service, or they might not be happy with an outcome. But repairs and maintenance is an area. Sometimes we get complaints about a letting. It could be a mutual exchange where people are unhappy about certain things. But the trends are predominantly around our contractor service. I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything else around that.
I was just adding to, obviously, as Lisa covered, Platform Property Care is an internally delivered team. We have our direct delivery people that deliver directly to the customer. And what we're seeing is a high level of satisfaction in the 90s generally when we turn up to deliver that repair. What we're seeing with complaints is a bit of where we were saying resources and the level of repairs coming through at the moment, the length of time to get that repair done for some customers, because we do from very small, just replacing a washer on a tap, all the way through to do large scale repairs. Those large scale repairs are taking longer, but we fold that into our average end-to-end time. And like I said, it's 34, 35 days that it takes to get that repair done. And what we do, and we don't get everything right all the time, absolutely. And so in some cases, we do see that where we've promised something and we haven't followed up on that promise. And that's where we've seen on process. And that is sometimes to do with a bit of a behaviour of that individual, but also about some of our processes that aren't as customer-centric as we'd like them to be. So we're reviewing all of those now to make sure that we can see that customer journey from beginning to end, so no customer gets stuck in a gap between our service, and they always get communicated to throughout that. We are working towards that at the moment.
You also do repairs certainly for rooftop.
Yes.
Does that impact your ability to perform repairs for your own residents?
No, we work side in side, as hand in hand with Rooftop. Rooftop have a discrete team that delivers their own repairs. We have some efficiencies where some platform stock sits alongside a Rooftop stock, so we wouldn't send a different person to deliver that repair if those houses are side by side, because it's about efficiency. So we have a discrete team that delivers Rooftop, and we have a discrete team that delivers Platform, just to make sure, and both of those are predicated on the volume of repairs coming through, to make sure that we've got the right resources in place to deliver that volume.
Thank you.
I can talk a little bit about complaints to do with damp, mould and condensation, if that helps as well. So just as a quick response to that, I think Awaab's law has identified that there is a 28-day timescale to sort out damp, mould, condensation. We were running at about 50 days about a year ago. This summer we set up a brand new team, a complex repairs team, who deal with damp, mould, condensation, disrepair. For the past 3 months, they've been averaging between 7 and 5 days to resolve damp, mould and condensation. So that has been quite a significant success. We don't just stop there. That has been investment, but that is just one example of how we're trying to reduce those complaints. And we have successfully done that in this case. Yep.
Jen, did you want to?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add, and hopefully colleagues at Platform won't mind me adding, that what they've just described to members here, I also hear from other housing associations as well. So that kind of sector-wide challenge is one that's repeated when I talk to other housing associations as well. So nothing that they've just described is something that is a surprise to me, I guess. I just wanted to add that and thought it might be helpful.
And just another point for further assurance, actually, for the size of our organisation, our complaints are lower than similar organisations of the same sort of size, although, you know, we want people to complain about our services if they're not right. We want to hear that, because only by knowing about it can we put it right and can we work to make sure that those customers get a better service in the future.
To add to that, when we respond to all our customers, very much the format of our responses are related to what was the issue, responding to that issue with the customer, resolving that, but also learning from it, and we add into all our letters what we've learnt about that complaint to ensure it improves our services going forward.
Is there anything else on that particular issue that anybody, Councillor Tucker?
It's about complaints and repairs. When you first started working in this area, your office and your sole office, I believe, was in Northampton or somewhere over there. Have you gotten offices now more distributed around your districts, and are we, or are you still operating solely out of that office?
I can come in there. Just to let you know, we have we've not had an office in Northamptonshire. One of our main offices is in Worcester, so we have a very, very large office in Worcester, and that's where a large chunk of our property care team work out of. So that is obviously very local, and that is one of our most important offices, along with our office that we've got in Birmingham. So they're the two main offices, and they're significant places for people to come into work and work together. And we're seeing more people come into the workplace as well.
Right, thank you. The other question I was going to ask is, how long is the property vacant between a tenant vacating and a new tenant coming in?
I can answer that one as well. So our void times are carefully managed. It's a complex area because, you know, there are some properties that are longer to let than others. We've got our key performance indicators to make sure that our properties are let. And at the moment, I think it's about 40 days, is that right?
Yeah, so perspective of if you take from a key to us and then a key back to our lettings team, on average, it takes about 35 days to turn a void round. What we're seeing is a higher level of work in our voids going forward, and a level of clearance work has increased where customers leaving our properties are leaving more stuff at the end of that, directly related to probably cost of living and removing that material. So we're taking on those additional costs. So, but that's one of the areas we absolutely want to reduce. Our target is 35 days to actually complete the void works. And we're hitting those 35 days at the moment.
If I may come back, Chairman, just one other point. I've received a number of complaints, and I'm not the only one, that any floor coverings which have been put into the property are ripped out between the one tenant and another, which seems to everybody to be extremely wasteful. Is that what you do? And if not, thank you.
So, I mean, I've worked in housing since 1988, and this has been very cyclical over that period of time. Sometimes we have gifted items, and we certainly are very committed to making sure that carpets that are fit for purpose and are fine, where we know there's been no pets in the house, are retained. And wherever possible, we try and do a viewing during the empty home period so that customers can come in. So I just want to give you the assurance that that's not the case. If we think there's a reason to remove the carpets, then we will. But if we can leave them, then we will. But equally, sometimes we leave carpets and customers then tell us that they don't want them. So that's a real challenge for us as well. Personally, I think it's important that customers do have covering, because I think it's a really expensive item when people move into the homes. So absolutely committed to making sure that if we can gift items, and that might include some light fittings and might include some curtains, then we will absolutely do that.
Any more questions on, particularly on complaints? No. If I can just, so you did present a slide on data around complaints, and as the chair of ONS, I have to say that it's no good to us in that format. So it's been presented to us tonight. We're here to review and scrutinise your performance. We can't do that from that slide. It was illegible, and I hate to be sort of frustrated by it, but as a committee, that's one of the things that's most of interest to us. So I would ask in the future that if you supply that data, that we have an advance to see it, and so that we can come to you with informed questions on it. That I don't believe that presentation was available to the committee before.
This presentation wasn't there.
No. So,
The other information was that they provided before.
but was it provided in this format?
There was information provided in September last year,
Yeah.
so I'd need to go back and look at exactly what was provided then, but we didn't get any queries out of that. The only queries we had were the questions, the 4 questions that we've had today. So if members did want something different today, if they'd have been able to ask that question in advance, I'd have been able to change
No, I
that
appreciate it,
presentation
and
for tonight.
I'm well known for being a bit touchy about
it's
what
fine.
this committee sees and how they see it. So don't
Yeah,
take it in
so-
any.
so-
And everyone's. I've had the police and crime commissioner,
Yeah.
and I've said the same thing to him. The reality is that's a really important piece of information for the committee to review, and I think actually there's a lot to be celebrated in there, and that's also the problem. It's
So-
not about you trying to
Yeah.
not show us what's going on. It's just you have, but we can't really
There was-
engage with it as a piece of information
Yeah.
in this format at
Absolutely,
this
Chair.
meeting.
We understand that, and
Yeah.
we'll make sure that it's given in a more accessible way, because it is quite technical in terms of it's an internal document. So feedback really welcome, and also if anybody does want us to go through this in more detail separately, we're happy to do so.
Yeah, I really
To give
appreciate that.
some
And
context.
it's like I say, I know it sounds like an absolute dig at you all, but it's not. It's just frankly that, like I say, that it's on that. I can't see that screen from
Yeah.
here. It's hard for me to engage with that
completely
information.
Understand.
But apart from that, I did want to say though that I think it's interesting the data that you showed about the callbacks. That's a significant step
Improvement.
change.
It
You know,
is.
to go from 14 minutes down
Yeah.
to 2
Yeah.
is incredible. So you should definitely be applauded for that. So whatever you've
Thank
done,
you.
well done, because I think that's a
We've worked
huge
really
improvement.
hard, and we've worked differently to make sure that our customers aren't waiting and they get the answers they need. And I think, we can be very assured that that will remain as it is now. And for those people that, are interested, we can keep providing updates about
Okay.
that. We're happy to do so.
I appreciate it. Thank you. So we'll move on to the second question that was submitted by Councillor Sims, who isn't here. So unless anyone's got any concerns or issues with the response, and we'll happily take that as read. Question 3, I think, was that Councillor Sims? That's Councillor Sims as well. Is there any other feedback on the questions and the responses that we've had pre the meeting from any members of the committee? No? Thank you. So is there any questions now that you'd like to ask? Oh, okay. So if I'll start, and I'll go round, I'll start with Councillor Herdman.
Just a couple of things. Your customer satisfaction, which looked very positive, is that on like an upward trajectory, or is it?
Yeah, very much so. It's on month, it's rising. So it started from quite a low position, and we're really pleased with the fact that it's achieved beyond our KPI, which is 75%, and we're sustaining that and improving on that month on month, iteratively, small iterative improvements, but definitely heading in the right direction.
Okay, thank you for that. And with we mentioned, or you mentioned that education of individuals briefly, and we spoke about mould and and that sort of thing. Do you have like physical inspectors who go around to monitor, not encroach on people, but have a look into these places and make sure that people are doing you know, the correct, living in the, you know, not the correct way, but living in a sort of way that's suitable for the property?
Our neighbourhood officers, there's a whole range of different roles that are in and out of our over the doorstep of our customers' homes for a variety of reasons. And one of the things that we are really focused on is making sure that, irrespective of what role you do, that you are really looking at the customer and making sure that they are safe and well. So, for example, we've invested a lot of training into our operatives for safeguarding, and they send through their referrals. Some of you may be aware that there was a woman called Sheila Celioni who passed away in a Peabody property in London, and her body lay undiscovered for quite a few years. That really concerned us. So what we did then was really try and look at those customers who were in contact with us for a variety of reasons. So we might be in their home to do a gas service, we might have spoken to them on the phone, but there were a core group of people who quite a few elderly people who hadn't had any contact with us. So now we have a programme called Silent Customers. What we do is we make sure that all of our customers have some form of contact with us over a 12-month period. And some of those customers who weren't engaging with us, we will go out and we will relentlessly try and get over the doorstep. And when we have, in some cases, we've discovered people who were very, very vulnerable, not living well, who needed a lot of support, who needed to be safeguarded. And I'm really proud of that piece of work. It's won a couple of awards in the housing sector because it is a really important thing. It goes back to, you know, some of the best ways of working are the ways that have been around for a long time. Seeing the customer, being really focused about the customer, but using technology to help. So when I first became a neighbourhood officer, we were still in the days where everybody did get a home visit every year. There was an annual visit. And we don't do that anymore because we can't afford to run that service. It's just the way things are. I don't know anybody that does. But what we can do is we can take data and understand what those interactions have been, look at some of the trends around that, and we can make those interventions to make sure that people who perhaps aren't seeking help get the help that they need, and that we're being more proactive in the way that we do that than what we perhaps have been historically. So I hope that gives you some assurance. There's a whole range of different things that we do to make sure that our customers are safe and well. And we are constantly training our colleagues to make sure that they are informed around best practice, that we get organisations that are market leaders in delivering that training to our colleagues to make sure that they're really spotting anything that doesn't look right. We also have a tenancy health check, so if something doesn't look right, we've introduced a 360-degree review of the customer. It's very much about the customer leading that conversation, things that matter to them, like repairs. It's not just about us data gathering. It's about saying, you know, what is it? What's your issues? Tell us what your issues are. We're here to scoop them up and try and resolve them for you in one place. Our neighbourhood teams are out there all the time. They should be spending between 60 and 80% of the working week should be out there talking to customers, and we work hard to make sure they've got the technology and the equipment to do so really efficiently. We're about to embark on we're calling it Customer First, and that is a data gathering exercise for those of you that are probably very connected with the housing sector. One of the big issues we've got is we don't have really robust data. Over many years we haven't collected really good data about who's living in our homes and also our properties, but particularly for our customers, we don't refresh that data in a way that is really useful, and we don't cleanse it and update it in a way that makes it something that is a live state. So what we want to get to, and we've just started this week, the data gathering conversations, is we've set up a team of people who are going to contact all of our customers, and they're going to ask them lots of questions, some of which people may find intrusive and may not wish to tell us the answers to. But the idea of it is to find out some basic information about customers, but then to dig deeper and find out some more complex information about customers and people who are living in the home. So we talk about damp and mould. We don't always know who's living in our homes because people ebb and flow from those homes, and people have children and they don't have any obligation to let us know. But there may be some people living in that family who've got respiratory illnesses, and they might be living in a home that has got some damp and mould. And actually the risk for that person living in that home, if you've got a respiratory illness, is much higher than if you are fit and well. So it's triangulating all of that information to make sure that we're making the right decisions, and we're not almost like sheep dipping, that we're seeing people as individuals and their families as individuals and making sure that they get the right service and they feel like they can trust us and have a good conversation with us. So we don't always get it right, as Mark said, you know, we're on a journey and we don't live in a perfect world, but one of the things that we are very committed to is doing the right thing for our customers and giving them the opportunities to tell us what we're doing well and what we're not doing well.
Thanks. I was just checking what I was sent in September and I didn't get that slide, so I was just checking. Okay, so we're moving round to... You've completed? Yeah. Councillor Crump?
I think Ben answered most of what I was going to say, but on your survey, you were saying that the percentages, but what was the actual percentage of people that responded to you? Did they all have to respond, or was it, you know, what was it, a high percentage of responses that you actually received?
Just in relation to that, 35% response rate is a really good response rate, and it makes sure, and it gets us over that category of making sure that it's statistically correct based on all our customers. So 35% is really good. So we're really satisfied that 77.8 is a true reflection of the majority of our customers.
To get a better response rate, do you think you could like incentivise it? I'm just thinking because it gives you a truer picture of what, because you don't go out and do inspections, like say with a private renting scenario, they go out every 3 months, 6 months or whatever and see a property. So if there are any issues, we're all talking about damp and mould, but other issues as well that could be resolved in the earlier stages rather than people not reporting them. So you've got the opposite side of it. I don't know. It's just a suggestion, really.
I think as a sector we don't incentivise. What we want is pure feedback that's sort of customer-led rather than being incentivise-led. So that's why we don't... I mean, we're always open to considering that, but I think for now we're not going to go down that route. You know, you can see we've sent out nearly 7,000 surveys and we've had, you know, nearly 2,500 responses. So we think that's pretty fair, to be honest, in terms of getting those surveys back. And you know yourself when you see pop-up surveys and, you know, you don't click them, I never complete them. So I always think, you know, for those people that do take that time, there are a lot of people that don't, and that's their choice. It's customer choice.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that is that just remember this is our solicited survey, so we go out after a service and we ask that customer, but we get a whole load of other communication from our customers through other routes, and we take that on account. So this is just part of the communications we've received from our customers.
Councillor Tucker, did you have another question or not? No?
Okay, thank you. I've got some sort of high-level questions to begin with, and then a couple of more specific ones. Just on an overall thing, your housing stock, as I understand it, you have two main sources of new housing stock. One is where you either build it yourselves or you're involved in a group to build it, and the other is where it's built by developers on a private estate who then hand some over to you. Is that broadly an accurate assessment? What's the proportion between those two routes?
I'd need to come back to you on that and clarify it. I can't say at the moment. We do. I think the second portion you're referring to is called Section 106. Is particularly predominantly we try and build our own developments because we're in control of the quality, we're in control of the sizes of the homes, the construction methodologies, but we do acquire quite a lot of Section 106 properties from private developers. I don't know the exact numbers, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's roughly a 50-50-ish split, something like that.
Okay, thank you. You kind of preempted my next question, because my next question was going to be, would you prefer to build more of your own?
Yes, and that's our aim. Quite simply, we have what we call our platform standard, which is a better standard than private developers' build specification. We like to build ours using modern methods of construction, low carbon. We prefer to have nil gas homes. They're future-proofed, and you don't get that with a lot of developers, and you tend to get smaller properties as well. So we prefer to build them ourselves if we can.
Okay, and you successfully preempted my next question as well, which was going to be, are you generally satisfied with the quality of houses you get from private developers? And I suspect the answer to that is not really.
We do our very best. We have our own quality control team. So if we're going to buy homes off private developers, we will do our own ongoing inspections whilst our homes are being built, and we will refuse to to complete the acquisition of them if they are not up to a good standard. And I can speak of experience locally here of a Section 106 that we did, and the quality was not up to standard, and we refused to take handover of those properties. And it did take the developer several months to get them up to standard, but they got them to a place where we were comfortable with them.
Okay, I mean, I'm not expecting you to answer this question now, but that kind of feedback would be very useful to us, particularly as ward councillors when we're dealing with planning applications that have Section 106, because obviously ensuring that the properties that are built and handed over to you or to other social housing operators are up to standard is as important as just the sheer numbers of them.
It is really interesting. Some developers, the quality on site depends on the site management team. You hear all sorts of stories in the press about big name developers, and I won't mention the names. Some of them have a dreadful reputation, but if you get the right team on the site, they are perfect to work with. You have a poor team with a high turnover of site managers, for example, you almost know that you're going to get a poor quality product at the end of it. So it's not always accurate to say there's a particular developer that's going to be awful. There are some that are renowned that we have, as a policy, kind of said we don't want to take any more homes from them. But generally speaking, they go up and down in terms of quality.
Okay, thank you, that's useful. On a completely different note, absolutely unrelated to the quality of your housing stock, how do you deal with issues caused by antisocial behaviour by your tenants?
We have a really robust policy and procedure about antisocial behaviour. We have a specialist team called the Community Safety Team that come under my portfolio. So neighbourhood officers own antisocial behaviour and other property-related tenancy breaches, and they manage those in accordance with the policies and procedures. Some cases are complex. They involve customers who've perhaps been friends who then have a disagreement, and the level of antisocial behaviour is such that it's not actually going to get anywhere if we were to take it through the legal process and go to court. Some cases are they're easier to manage actually, because there is a very, very clear breach of tenancy and you can escalate it and manage it really quickly. The courts, you probably know, there's a huge backlog. So whilst we are looking at a range of different tools to enforce our tenancies, and some of that might be injunctions, what we do find is it can take a very long time because of the courts. Platform doesn't have a number of assured short-hold tenancies, which is what private renters sector landlords operate, and these were things that were brought in by the government, so that under circumstances, if you were a new tenant, a new customer of Platform, you would be on a starter tenancy for 12 months, and that could potentially be extended until 18 months. With the new proposal that the Conservatives initiated for the Renters Reform Bill, that will go, because people will have an assured tenancy, so they will have a very secure tenancy from the get-go. The Labour government have committed to progress with the bill, and there was a further reading, I think, yesterday on that. And so what that will mean is that everybody will have a secure tenancy, so private rented sector and ourselves under the assured short-hold starter tenancy policy we're able to serve a Section 21 to end a tenancy, that will go. So, you know, there are instances where there are clear breaches of a tenancy through antisocial behaviour in the initial stages of the tenancy, and we bring that to a mandatory end through the Section 21. What will happen in future when this is enacted is that it will be the same platform from the day one of the tenancy. You have to prove beyond reasonable doubt to a judge that the tenancy has ended. The courts are mindful not to give possession, and they do give evictions, but they are very mindful not to give possession. They always have been, but particularly so because of the fact that we're in a housing crisis and there aren't the homes there for those people that need them. So, you know, we may have a desire to end a tenancy, but we are always going to be in the hands of the courts to make that final decision.
And how does that sit with the service you provide to other tenants who are the victims of antisocial behaviour?
Yeah. So we are there representing those people. So what we do is, if somebody makes a complaint about antisocial behaviour, the first thing we will do is speak to that customer and establish what the nature of that complaint is in quite a lot of detail. And we will be led by the customer. Some customers are happy for us to progress it in terms of going out and speaking to those other people, speaking with stakeholders who might be involved. Sometimes we've got statutory services involved with the respondents. So it might be social services, the police might be involved. And, you know, what we do is we work on the basis that we want to sustain a tenancy, and we want to work really hard with those individuals and the stakeholders that are involved to try and stabilise a tenancy so that we don't take enforcement action. Our whole process is around fairness and support. Safeguarding sometimes there's additional complexities, sometimes in cases you've got domestic abuse, you've got a range of different services involved, you've got, you know, children who have got additional needs, you've got very vulnerable people, you've got drug and alcohol dependency. So it's not a straightforward process of, you know, this is what's happened and we're going to end the tenancy. These are complex situations and each case is very, very different. But what we do have is very highly trained and very committed colleagues, and we work with in strong partnerships. So each area has their own community safety team, where there will be local authority employees, there will be other stakeholders, the police, where cases are discussed with a view to taking appropriate action. But often a lot of airspeed is low level, people unhappy with parking, people unhappy with a variety of different things. Sometimes it's boundary disputes, sometimes it's fencing, and these are the ones that are really difficult, and we offer mediation to try and find a way where people can live together without having conflict, because we're not the ones that are living there with them, you know, and you know, these are the ones where we're not going to get an eviction, and we're not going to get somebody losing the home over it, because no judge will give us possession on those grounds. However, we recognise that it's very uncomfortable for those customers that are living in that situation, and we'll do all we can to support them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Just on an unrelated item, but in a similar vein, we did some work recently on sort of littering and fly tipping, and one of the comments that came back from a resident was their concern that it's usually fairly swiftly dealt with when it's on public land, but there has anecdotally and as a more general rule when it comes to housing association land, it can take a longer time for it to be resolved. So I just wondered if there's anything you could talk to on that particular subject.
We spend an absolutely astronomical amount of money removing fly tipping. I think this year we've spent about £1.75 million removing fly tipping across our communities. It's a societal problem, it's a pandemic. What we're finding is that fly tipping is everywhere. It's on agricultural land, it's, you know, in towns and cities, people litter. Sometimes people are coming, very often people are coming onto our land to fly tip who have got no association with that land. And we're removing it as quickly as we can. We have a caretaking team who are very proactive. So there are employees, we're not subcontracting that work out. They are very proactive in removing it. We don't always remove it as quickly as we would like to, but you know, that's a challenge for all of us in the sector. Customers can't afford to go and responsibly sometimes remove their rubbish. Mark alluded to the fact that customers are leaving the things they don't want in the garden. When we've got an empty property, what we tend to find is that the community will come out and fly tip in that garden, and we're left with a cost, and that's customers' money that's paying for that removal. So the fly tipping that the charges I've just explained are pure fly tipping. They're not the void costs that we incur from the community's fly tipping in the gardens of empty homes. So yeah, it's a community challenge, and we're open to a conversation about how we can work more closely together to address some of these concerns, because only through that partnership working can that happen. The cost of removing white goods is a charge to customers. They can't afford it. It's a real challenge. But one of the biggest issues is people coming on to our land and fly tipping who are not part of those communities in which that fly tipping is happening.
Thank you. I understand your frustration around that one. Leclerc-Worthy.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a number of questions, if you don't mind. Chairman, if I've asked too many and you want to go to somebody else, then I'll come back to me later.
I will, don't worry, John.
Across the whole of your housing stock, just to give me a quick ballpark figure, how many properties do you actually oversee? This is going to come on to another, my main point of my question.
It's about 50,000 homes.
Right. Of that, and I apologise that maybe I should have submitted this as a question beforehand so that it would give you a chance to come up with detail. If you could give an answer in part, that's fine, but if you could follow it up, I'd be grateful. Of those properties, how many, by percentage or even numbers, are what you might call 100% disability favourable, i.e. ramps to front doors, wheelchair accessible, the doors are wide enough for wheelchairs. If you're going down a hallway, can you turn into a sitting room, for example, without backwards, forwards, accessibility into bathroom space, or for maybe the more exuberant, they have an ensuite, can they get in and do they have sufficient turning to transfer onto the loo, transfer to a seat or stool in the bathroom, i.e. totally 100% disability favourable. I'm talking mainly by wheelchairs, but of course there's all sorts of disablements and people with motorised scooters, for example. Do they have parking facilities secure outside their property, etc.? I appreciate, I'll go back to what I said. On reflection, maybe it's a question I should have asked before to give you a better chance to answer. And if you say, I'm more than happy to go away and get you an answer on that, I will accept that. And then I'll come on to the next question.
I can answer some of it in terms of the number of homes. So we can find the number of fully adapted homes. They're going to be few and far between across the country, because very often adapted homes, there's two areas. One is called a lifetime home, and that's something that in the early noughties there was quite a few lifetime home funded homes available, and these are homes that are future proofed and encompass all the things that you've just talked about. They might have a hoist that's built in so that it can be freed up if it's needed. It might have a stair lift cabling so you can easily put the stair lift in. It has all the ergonomically designed features. The other ones are the more bespoke properties, where they are designed and built in partnership with the local authority or with the county in order to meet the needs of a very specific person or family need. And they're the two routes. So one of the things that we're looking at in our new corporate strategy is bringing back the lifetime home element. As you can imagine, these are expensive homes to build, very expensive homes to build, because they've got a bigger footprint, and also they are, the components that go in them are more expensive, and they're not necessarily going to be used, all of them, at the same time. So over time you've got to do the replacement component, even though they may never get used. So they're the two elements we want to do, properties that are more lifetime homes and bring some of that concept back. We've yet to define that, so that's in our new build homes. Obviously in our properties that we've built through 106, they're not going to be, because they are off-the-shelf homes that are built for, usually for sale, to a very specific design. Do you want to speak, Claire? Yeah, I'm going to hand over to Claire.
Just to think I'm very local. I live and work in this area, and thinking about our homes locally, there are some particular schemes that we've built in the last probably 10 to 15 years, not necessarily in Wychavon, but in Worcestershire and Herefordshire, where we've built extra care villages. So we've built the Rose Garden at Hereford, we've built Clarence Park in Malvern, Meadow Court in Worcester, and we're now just completing Cathedral Park in Holmer in Hereford as well. They are purpose-built buildings that we've designed and built. And for instance, those flats, it's for older people over 55s, but they do have, as you've just described, that type of accommodation. So they've all got level access showers. They'll all have those wider doorways. They're very generous, if you like, in their build. As Lisa's explained, they're very expensive, therefore, and the facilities are second to none. Restaurants, gyms, shops, cafe, you know, what's in those schemes, but they're purpose-built schemes that we've done, and they are, as you've described, and then what Lisa said in terms of some of those bespoke properties. And I know there's lifetime homes in Wychavon as well. There's some on Westlands, for instance, on Woodman's Way. So they do exist within our portfolio within Worcestershire, I would say, not necessarily just in Wychavon. But I know that Rooftop have got some extra care as well. There's Cherry Orchard, yeah. So we're not the only provider, are we, in your area? So yeah, there is some good practice out there.
I think as well, you know, we know it's a precious resource, so if a home becomes available to rent out, we'll work really closely with the team at Wychavon to make sure that the property is matched to someone who can really get the benefit out of a property like that.
Thank you for that. The next point I'd like to do is I concur with what the Chairman has said. Whilst your slide regarding calls contains a huge amount of information, obviously from here I can't see it or read it, so I look forward to hopefully we get a copy of the slides where we can look at them, and as the Chairman has asked, maybe some of those be in more detail. One of the things I put down here to ask you, I think one of the slides, did it show that quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, different numbers, and it seemed to vary between 45 and 50k of calls. Now, not all calls are going to be complaints, or I've got a tap that's not working, or this is not working. You're going to get complimentary calls as well. And it'd be nice to see what percentage of those are, because obviously those are things that make you smile and go home at night with satisfactory. But when you do have problems, I would imagine you probably then allocate people to go. Like if someone's got a leaking tap, or it's not working or something, it's a very easy question to ask, what would be your time for attending those places? But obviously you have to prioritise them. But do you actually, within those number of calls, have any information or statistics that identify what your attendance time to calls are when there is an action that has got to be taken, whether it be urgent or not quite so urgent? You know, because obviously a tenant who's got a tap that's not working, for example, is not going to be happy if you say to them, we can't get to you for 5 days, for example. But if it's more urgent, like the cistern isn't working and it's overflowing, you've got to get a plumber out there pretty darn quickly, you know, otherwise you've got a problem. Now, it might be a difficult statistic or a question to ask, but do you have any sort of idea on timescales that you do for attendance?
So if a customer contacts us, it depends on what the nature of the contact is. So obviously, as Mark said, if it's an emergency, if it's deemed to be an emergency like the one you've just explained, we would attend and deal with it within six hours. If we couldn't deal with it, then we would make some decisions with the customer about what we needed to do. Sometimes we have to move people out into temporary accommodation because it's not safe for them to remain in the property, and we can't fix it within that period of time. And sometimes, for example, in a situation where there's been a flood, we will absolutely support the customer and the family to make sure that they are safe and well and have somewhere to stay. So we'll work with them. In other matters, if someone's making a general inquiry, then we have a number of response times. Generally, it's 3 working days to get back to somebody and give them an answer and start working with them. And it's the same with antisocial behaviour. You know, if somebody contacts us about antisocial behaviour, we have response times, which is 3 working days. And if it's a hate incident, then it's 24 hours. And we closely monitor that. So there's a range of different, I suppose, measures and monitoring that happens to make sure that we're hitting our targets which we set, and we're very transparent with our customers about that. We do give customers information on that, and we have our customer voice panel who oversee a lot of the data and scrutinise us quite heavily on that.
Thank you. 2 more small points, one of which has been partially asked and answered, but I'd like to expand on that a little bit. But you go back, you have control over or ownership, you know, of a number of garages. Now, obviously, thugs will come along, they'll kick the garage door in. You've obviously got to replace that. And have you got any indication on how much damage is caused for those garages that you own, what the cost is to you to replace them, and how that impinges on your time, basically, to have to get people to go out and to correct something of mindless idiots where you've got more important things to do, like looking after your tenants?
I could come back a bit on that. I mean, generally speaking, we haven't spent a huge amount of money repairing and maintaining garages. We do go and secure them, but we've got an issue where we've got so many garages that are empty that if a garage is vandalised, we can usually offer an alternative to that occupier, make that garage secure. And because we are option appraising all of our 3,128 garages over the next 12 months, some of those garages we will rationalise because there's no need for them any longer. There'll be alternative uses for those sites. So generally speaking, we're not trying to spend abortive money when we've got so many empty garages at the moment.
I come now to one of your commendable points that you made about replacement of kitchens, bathrooms, etc., etc. $64,000 question, I suppose, in a way. How many properties do you still have in the pipeline needing renovations of one sort or another? And do you have a target for 2025?
I will need to come back to you with the detail. We have a backlog plan that we are enacting to make sure that every property gets all of the investment work. That plan is going to take some time to complete, but I'll need to provide more detail to you on that. So it's, for example, a typical lifespan of a kitchen is about 20 years. Now, quite often, kitchens last a lot longer than that. And in my own home, my own kitchen is a lot older than that. Same with a boiler. A life cycle for a boiler is 15 years. But quite often, boilers last a lot longer. And again, in my own home, my boiler is 21 years old and so on like that. So sometimes, residents don't want those items replaced because it's disruption and inconvenience. But in other properties, some of those items fail a lot earlier than those life cycles. So we have we've identified the programme. We know how many properties are beyond their life cycles, but those components are still in good condition. The second they fall into poor condition, that's when they'll get replaced. If they're not, if they're already out of their life cycles as well.
So your boiler's older than you are.
You're very kind, yeah, but I wish, yeah.
Finally,
Final question,
I apologise for it is the last one.
It's the last question, yeah.
It is the last one. Going on from what was being asked about inspections when you take over properties from developers, would you be able to identify the procedures, the documentation that happens, and once they give you the keys, as developers, I'm sure they don't just go, thanks very much, we're off now, bye-bye. what is your comeback if you later find faults over 12, 24 months or whatever? You know, what is their obligation rather than just leaving you in the lurch? And yes, Chairman, that is my final question.
There's a number of mechanisms to try and hold developers to account. So if it's Section 106 developers, we will try and withhold a retention payment. So that payment could be withheld. It could be 3% withheld at the point of completion, and then 6 months later it might drop down to 1.5%. Sometimes we'll withhold that retention for 2 years, but usually it's for a 12-month period. Obviously, every property we take has to have a new build warranty, minimum of 10 years, has to be a well-known company as well. We do extensive quality checks. We need a massive range of certification. We have what's called a securitization procedure. So it's basically if you bought your own home, you would get a mortgage, and the mortgage company would want a certain amount of documentation to give you that mortgage. It's exactly the same for us at Platform, but it's a lot more detail. There's probably there's a checklist that we've got. It's probably got about 40, 50 items in that checklist. Section 278 agreements, adoption agreements for drainage, street lights, roads, and it's not just kind of your new build certification as well. If it's a building with lifts, we need lifts commissioning certification. There's just a whole massive range of documentation. So when we're dealing with Section 106 developers, we have to be exceptionally careful, because it's not unusual for some developers to cease trading or literally to walk away from a development and you'll never see them again. So we have to make sure they are built to the right standard. And we won't take handover of them if we're unhappy with them. We are quite blunt about that, yes. And it is challenging for some developers. Some developers can be challenging, but we work with them. We're upfront with them. They know what to expect. They don't walk into this not knowing what our standards are going to be. So we take them along on that journey. And we use consultants as well. Those consultants will send them warning letters. We'll send them notices, all those kinds of things if they're not performing. Where there are our own developments, we do massive amount of checks. They're built to our standards. We're very careful when they're our own developments.
Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you. Finally, Councillor Wilkins. Just one. So, Councillor Wilkins, we received the questions that you submitted via email earlier. I've agreed with Spencer that those were submitted rather late, and the best format would be that they then come back to you with written submission. If you'd like to ask the questions but understand there won't be an answer given this evening, then that's fine. Okay, but if there's questions over and above that, then that's absolutely fine. Okay.
For comments, your boiler is a year younger than me. So the two questions I got from hearing that was specifically about the properties you mentioned that are no gas and are very eco. Is there a price parity, or is there quite a significant price difference in the energy cost that's passed on to the customer for a quote-unquote older property or a quote-unquote one of those gas-free eco ones?
All of our new build properties have to have an EPC level of B at a minimum. So generally speaking, if you've got a property with an energy certificate of B, the costs are going to be fairly positive, a lot less than any typical existing property. We are building some homes, and we're just about to go on to our first development over in Nottingham, and it is what we call zero bill homes. So actually the homes will generate as much energy as you need to heat your home and will cost you nothing. But that is not widespread yet. So generally speaking, new build homes are far more cost effective than pretty much any other homes. And it's the way the whole housing sector is going as well. So there is a cost difference. It depends really, it just depends very much on the families inside them, how many children they've got, the number of kind of computers, all that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, our homes any new build home that's built to a B level tends to be really quite transformational for those families. You can't quite explain how nice and warm and ambient those homes are compared to older existing homes. So they are very, very good health-wise, bills-wise, financially for those residents.
And the second one you kind of, I think, touched on. You mentioned that you build your own. Do you notice a significant difference in the cost of the newer homes you're building, so the eco-friendly ones, compared to the less eco-friendly ones you used to build, or the ones that maybe, or the also eco-friendly ones that the private sector are building? Is it like significantly more expensive? Is it about the same, or whereabout is it?
There is a difference. So if you're going to build an eco-friendly home that's nil gas, that is more expensive. And it's quite simply things like air source heat pumps, photovoltaic panels are more expensive. However, those homes will be future-proofed. So we have a government target to make sure that all of our homes achieve EPC-C by 2030. Now, a lot of those homes will need expensive upgrades to achieve that, and it could be external wall insulation, could be air source heat pumps, could be photovoltaic panels, all those sorts of things. So those, it could be a false economy not to put those in to brand new homes, because otherwise, at some point those homes will need to be revisited and upgraded. So there is a significant additional cost to have homes at that higher standard. And that's part of the difference between developers with Section 106 developments, that they have to provide as part of a planning obligation, because quite often they won't offer that specification or that level of equipment that future-proofs those homes.
Thank you very, very much. So thank you, Lisa. I did write your name. Steve, Mark and Claire for coming along and presenting. Thank you very much for tolerating my little outburst around data, but I would appreciate that next time we come, we see that sort of slide beforehand, but we do appreciate your time and for answering the questions as fully as you have, and we look forward to just receiving the replies to the more detailed questions that we've asked. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for the invitation today. Thank you.
Right, moving on to the budget scrutiny report. Obviously, everyone's had a chance to read that. I will just hand over to Councillor Tucker if she wants to make any comments on that.
Thank you very much, Chair. Well, I would just like to, I'm sure you've already read it, and there are the 6 recommendations that we put in. I would like to thank all the members of the Scrutiny Committee for all their work, because it was a lot of work to achieve that. And also to all of the officers. There have been names mentioned in particular in the report, and I would echo that. I would also like to add into that the name of Spencer as well, Spencer Winnett. He never likes to sing his own praises, but I think we need to thank him because he was very, very supportive of us. Also to say that the changes that were made after our earlier meeting, the meeting before the budget scrutiny started, I think all the committee members would say that they were worthwhile. It was probably much better as well to meet in person, because we were able to bounce ideas off each other much more easily than I think you can online. And I think we came up with a good set of recommendations, and I hope that members of the committee will be able to support them. Thank you very much.
So just for the record, I'd like to thank Councillor Tucker for chairing the budget scrutiny. I'd like to thank Jane and Alice for all the work that goes into it. It's a huge piece of work. It's something that is often done without knowing the sort of biggest question until the very last moment. I think it's something that we should celebrate, that's done as a piece of work across the political spectrum of Wychavon, of which people participate in a really active and collaborative way, which I think is really important. And I think the recommendations are sound, and I'm happy that we take the report and pass that on to the executive as is. Do we need a show of hands for that, Spencer? Yeah. So we've got, obviously, Julie's proposed, I've seconded. Can I just have a show of hands for everyone that agrees to take that forward? Perfect. Thank you very much. And moving on to our work plan. So just for information, I was updated last week about the pressures in revenues and benefits and why they wouldn't be able to come to this meeting to give us an update. We've been told that we can expect an update at a future meeting, and I said that was satisfactory given the time of year and the other pressures that have been going on. But in terms of our work plan, at our next meeting, we are probably the most significant piece is that we're expecting and we've had confirmed that Severn Trent will be attending the meeting. So, and we've also been told, Spencer, I think that potentially, along with the River Ranger, there'll be potentially another.
Yeah, he said he wanted to bring some colleagues with him. So
yeah.
Yet to be confirmed.
We've also extended an invite to I forget their name, Action, Louise Bugg and River Action. But just actually on that point, which I think we may have passed over in terms of budget scrutiny, yeah, so if we do it here, Julie, do you just want to just ask a question?
I just wanted to mention that during our budget scrutiny meetings, we did refer to support from District Council for equipment for the Avon River Action Group, and we were told that that was going ahead, but I just wonder if that is the case, because I think they are struggling at the moment. They haven't had any support.
I passed on an email over to Liz, so I'll chase Liz up tomorrow. But I know we have bought some, so we have been buying them, but I don't know whether there's just a bit of a blip at the moment. But I'll confirm that with Liz.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It was in October that she'd asked. Sorry. It was in October she'd asked for stuff, and she'd asked again, not got anything. So it was just messaged her last week. But yeah, if you could. And just on the meeting, I've been messaging to me on my phone. I have just been talking to Louise, not just having a private chat with somebody. And she can make the meeting next month. Yeah, very much so.
Okay, so it's there's actually the next, compared to this meeting, there's quite a lot on the agenda for the next meeting. So just urge everyone to make sure that if you have questions for a particular speaker, please get the questions in, because it, one, does allow us to properly scrutinise the people in front of us, but two, it just means we get more informed answers here in the meeting, of which, if we're not satisfied by, we can quiz further. It's only fair to those people that are giving up the time to come and attend our meetings and allow themselves to undergo that scrutiny. And just also, again, to highlight, we expect that Rooftop will come then to the next meeting after February. And bit like we did with Platform, do think about the questions that you want to put to Rooftop, and make sure, again, that we get those questions submitted early. I think probably on some of the stuff that we've seen from Platform already, there's probably a basis of questions that we might like to put forward to Rooftop and understand their situation on a couple of those things. But is everyone happy in terms of the forward work plan? Yeah? Okay. And then we've got the executive work plan. Any comments on that? No? Okay. Well, on that then, our next meeting is 19th of February, and thank you all very much for your time tonight. Thank you.